Hello and welcome to Got Clutter Get Organized, the conversation. I am excited because we're going to talk about brain dumping. And of course, we are here with Kimberly. We're going to have a conversation. So, welcome, Kimberly. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's one of my
So,
favorite topics to talk about.
yay! So, before we get into the topic, you started a business, Lost Art of Love. So, I
hmm
want you to share like what made you decide to start that business and actually what Lost Art of Love is all about.
Yeah, so Lost Art of Love was founded a couple of years ago as a need that I saw to help introverted women find their voice and help them to use the tools that they already naturally are gifted with to succeed in business and in life. And so the foundation of Lost Art of Love is that we love ourselves for exactly who we are, the way we were created. There's nothing we have to do to change who we are. So let's love ourselves as introverts, as women, and let's, lift each other up that way. And I like to say that the business it operates on like the principles of the LMNOPs. So the
Okay.
L for loving yourself, the M, we focus on mindset, because as an introvert, you can be very quiet on the outside, but on the inside is really loud. The N is a focus on networking because I think that's critical to being in business. And then the P is for planning because we're naturally good planners, right? We are detail oriented people who are strategic thinkers. And so let's focus on those aspects.
Hmm. So, Kimberly, what exactly is brain dumping? And but how can it help, women who are introverts, but maybe also just women in general?
Mm-hmm. I think, as a woman, we wear so many different hats, right? We're a wife, we're a mom, we're the PTA member, we're the church goer, we wear so many hats, right? And we have so many things going on in our brain at one time. And so I find brain dumping to be an exercise that you use whenever you're feeling like, oh my gosh, there's too much in my head. I need to get it all out. And whatever format that is for you, it could be on paper, it could be, on your tablet. If you're a voice person, make yourself a voice list, right? Whatever works for you. But brain dumping is really my exercise to get it all out of my head so that I know exactly what my week is going to look like because I do it every week. Sometimes I do it twice a week, I will say.
Okay.
When you have those weeks when you're just like, everything's coming at you, like, okay, I need to sit down and brain dump. And you just get it all out so that you
Okay.
can look at it and be objective, right? Instead of squirrel, oh, I have to do this right now, oh, I have to do that right now. Right. I mean, we're only human.
And that is true. And that is true. And you made a good point about how you just kind of listed all the things that we have to do. And I think sometimes we don't because I had a conversation last week with a client. She's like, Janet, I'm so tired. I says, well, let's see, you're the administrator of the school, but you also do lunch duty. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
also mom. And you're
Mm-hmm.
also grandma. And you're also mentor. And she's like, okay, all right. You don't have to say anything else. I'm just saying now. But that's good. And I like the way you said you make it easy so that we can, because sometimes people think, or at least, okay, I'll just say people, myself, it's like you do a brain dump maybe once a year or whatever. But I like the way you said, hey, sometimes I do it twice a week. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I think you
Mm-hmm.
just freed myself, but a lot of other people. So for people, and you did give a few examples, but for somebody's like, okay, I think I got a lot going on. I'm doing this, that, and the other. And oh, the squirrel over there
Yeah.
is running up the tree. That looks cute. How do we like get started?
Yeah, so I like to get started by first I literally take a piece of paper and I just put it all on a piece of paper, like all of the things that are running through my mind of what I have to do. And then I will look at my calendar and say, okay, these are all the commitments that I have for the week. So I know that based on this particular commitment, I might have to do some preparation for it. So I'm going to add that to my brain dump so that I don't get 20 minutes before that meeting or that time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot I had to do this because I was so bombarded with all these other things, right? And so just having them all down on paper for the week so that I can see, okay, this is where my commitments are, really helps me. And one thing that I like to do, if you can, it's not always possible, but leave it for 24 hours. Leave that list for 24 hours, come back to it, and then look at it with a fresh set of eyes, because you're really going to have some time to like settle and think about it, and think when you're reviewing that list for the second time, okay, these are really the things that are priority for me. And these are things that, yeah, that idea popped in my head, but I don't have to do it right now.
Okay. Mm. I like the way you just incorporate the brain dumping in the weekly planning.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think at least some of the images and the messages, it's like, okay, I want to start this project. I want to start this business. And I
Right.
just need to do a brain dump in order. But really, you're incorporating almost in everyday living and everyday planning. And
Yes.
just by doing that, sometimes can really also get rid of that mental clutter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like to use the brain dump list to um, plot into my week the things
Okay.
that I need to do, right? So
Okay.
if I see in my weekly plan that I have a meeting from 9 to 10 and then I'm busy from 1 to 3, that means that I have these other blocks of time available. So I can look at my brain dump list and say, what's priority for me today? And block that into my calendar so that I know that I'm accomplishing the things that I need to accomplish.
Wow. This has been like an eye opening conversation, Kimberly.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I mean, I feel that, I know how to manage my time and I've got the
Right,
tools,
right,
but just the whole brain dumping thing, because it was like, oh, I've got to, okay, now I'm thinking about starting some new services or whatever, or I'm taking on a
right.
new project. So let me brain dump. But now I see it's like, hey, I can incorporate it weekly and see
Mm-hmm.
like how I can manage my time a lot better, etc.
Right.
So, Kimberly, how do you manage? How do you plan? I mean, you already shared a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
you've got a lot of things going on.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, you're working with clients and in the community. And of course, I know your list is probably longer than anybody else's. But like, how do do you have a specific day when you just sit down and do your planning and organizing for your life, or are you a little bit flexible with it?
Yeah, typically I like to do it on Sundays.
Okay.
Sundays are kind of my get ready for the weekday. I allow myself Saturdays to just live my life and do all the like mom, wife, homeowner stuff that I got to do, right? And then Sundays, I have my spiritual time in the
Hmm.
morning, and then usually in the mid afternoon is when I will plan out my week. And I start with my brain dump and I list everything out. And then I get out my daily planner pages and I'll log in. These are my commitments. And then I'll look at that brain dump list and say, okay, what are the things that are priority? And I try not to add more than 3 things that are necessary to do in one day. Um, I'll be honest, on my list, I typically have 5. I have 3 that I must get done and 2 that are nice to have. So if I get time, I will get to those. But I also feel like I have to set boundaries for myself because a work from home individual, like you can be working from 7 a.m. until midnight and not even realize it,
Yes,
right?
that's so true.
So
So
I
true.
try really hard to set strict boundaries for myself. It says I'm going to stop working at this time. I only take calls on these days because otherwise, it just gets too overwhelming, and you just fill yourself up with so much anxiety of, oh my gosh, I have all these things to do. I just can't get to them all, that you kind of shut down. So I think boundaries are really important too when it comes to, planning out your week.
And I like what you said, 5 things, because I know someone who told me, "Oh yeah, I've got 30 things on my to-do list," and I said, there are 30 days in the month. Can we spread this out a bit? I'm like, you're not going to get all that done. You're just
uh-uh.
not.
No,
So
unless you're not going to sleep.
I know, and that's true. That is so true. That is so true. So, and I see we've got a visitor. See, that's why I like doing these things. You just
Yeah,
never know.
you never know.
You never know, and that's okay. So Kimberly, I want you one, of course, to tell people how they can connect with you and work with you, but also I know you got something exciting stuff going on in the month of September.
Yeah, yeah. So the easiest way, honestly, to find me on is to send me an email at kimberly@quietsparkcoaching.com. That's the easiest way to connect with me. My website is in progress, but you can still make a, connect and make a call with me there. So it's just kimberlycharvet.com, super easy. But in the month of September, I'm super excited to be launching a brand new subscription program, monthly subscription. And each month, the topic is either going to focus on planning or it's going to focus on networking. And in the month of September, we are focusing on planning, and we are going to talk all about the brain dump. I'm going to give you a guide that has just a brain dump list, one that's broken out by different categories. I'm going to give you personal planner pages that I've created that I use for myself every day. Um, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to do time blocking. There's going to be a video that you get to watch that walks you through all these things. And then
Wow.
finally, to make sure that there's some support for you, there will be a group chat available. So you can talk to everybody else that's going through this process this month, about this is where I'm running into a problem, or this, I don't know how to manage this, or oh my gosh, I love this. This is fantastic, because I think support is super important, not only as business owners, but also as women just in life, right? Like we would not exist if we did not have our support system. And
Yes.
so finding other people who are in the same boat as you, I think is so, so critical.
Okay, listeners, you know how I do. All of her links will be in the show page so you can connect with Kimberly directly. And, I just love it. Planning. And this is a great time,
Hmm.
especially September, because as we know, they've already got the holiday stuff in the stores. So
Yep.
that's kind of calling us. That's that squirrel is like, oh, got to get, at some point, I've got to know, do I need this? Do I need that? Do I have to plan? Do I have to cook? So this is the perfect time to get involved with something like this. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me. It has been a great conversation. Of course, there's other conversations. I'm like, oh, and she talks about this, that, and the other, but we'll talk about that later. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Janet. It was my pleasure.